Wrapper off, new club here, Nate. Not used it yet. There you go, brand new.
Zoomed in as well.
Did you? Just used them, first round with them. Oh, heavy. Right.
Great shot.
A bit heavy.
No. Yeah.
Just going to give them a little clean and we'll talk you through exactly what we've got. You've probably guessed what sort of iron I've gone for. I'll just show the camera now. It's just the 649 MB Tour. This is the iron that came up best when I got fitted. It plays very similar and looks very similar to what I've had in the past. So the 7 iron has a more traditional loft. It's at 34 degrees. You'd find in the past 35 was like a standard sort of 7 iron. But these days a lot of the companies have sort of pushed the boundaries and we're getting into the sort of 20s, 27, 28, 29 degrees loft for a 7 iron, which in the past would have been sort of 5 iron loft. This is the view from above. The top edge is very thin, which is nice, again giving that blade-like appearance, which is exactly what I want from an iron at address. It's obviously a forged club, so you can alter lofts and lies, but I've gone for a completely standard in this particular model. My previous set, I actually did have them adjusted a couple of degrees flat, but I actually wanted a more sort of standard set, which then I can alter once I've gamed the clubs and tried them and made sure that they're right for me. So from the 639 into the 649, sub 70 have widened the sole of the club. It's only by 1mm, but they're saying that the wider sole will help to prevent digging. So for someone like me who tends to swing it quite steeply, and occasionally I do go from out to in, that extra wide sole should help. You've also got a little bit of weight taken out of here and placed into the toe of the golf club. This weight they've removed is actually 6 grams. And what that weight does by putting it in the toe, it actually slows up the toe. So when we come through impact, the actual toe will remain at target longer and will prevent the actual club from flipping over and missing to the left. As we know, I do have a left miss at times, and that is why in the past I've had my wedges slightly flattened. What I like particularly about this iron is that they've actually reduced the offset from one model to the next. I don't want to see that club face set behind the shaft, and it's almost a straight line down. So it's pleasing to the eye, but also you've got some really good tech built into it, which should make this quite a forgiving iron. The ferrules on the golf club have been customised. Black with sort of a couple of white stripes and a silver one, just to add to the actual colouring. No reason why I went for that, just like the look of them. They're a little bit different. So the biggest surprise when I was fitted for these clubs was the type of shaft. Technology wise, graphite has really come on leaps and bounds in the last 3 or 4 years, and when Nick suggested graphite, although I was a bit surprised, he is a world-class fitter, and I felt that you go with the fitter and go with the advice and put graphite into my irons. KBS is what sub 70 fit. It's a KBS, it's a TGI, and it's an 80 shaft, which is a Tour graphite iron, and it's in the regular, so it'd be slightly stiffer being the sort of Tour version. Now graphite has improved massively in the last 4, 5, 6 years, and you'll now see a lot of Tour pros actually putting graphite into their irons. I think it's a good time just to mention as well that I've actually got these graphite clubs at standard length, so they're the same, exactly the same length as my Nikes I was using previously. But in the graphite, generally you'll find graphite shafts in your irons will be fractionally longer than a standard steel, maybe half an inch, 3/4 of an inch, nothing really more than that. But I'm only 5'10", so I just felt that I didn't want anything too long, which might sort of affect accuracy. So they're actually a standard steel length. So I've got the Lampkin ST hybrid grip fitted, which is basically corded at the top, which will be under my glove hand, and then quite a soft, almost like a Tour velvet style grip on the bottom. I've also got these grips on back to front, so that's the view as we hold and grip the golf club. Grip is standard +2, so it's fractionally thicker than a standard Lampkin grip. I've gone from 4 iron as the top end right the way down to pitching wedge, and every number covered in between. One minor issue that I may have, but it'll only be after I've tested and gamed these clubs, is the pitching wedge, and it may go too far. This one is going sort of 145, so I've sort of gone 10 yards further, which then may pose a problem between my pitching wedge and my gap wedge, because my gap wedge 50 degrees goes around about 115 to 120 yards, so I potentially got quite a big gap between the two. May well have noticed a few other additional changes to my bag. I'm still waiting on some wedges. I've been fitted for the wedges as well, so got some slightly different shafts in them. Also notice hopefully a different hybrid in my bag. I may do a what's in the bag, I may not. Until next season when I've actually practiced and used these clubs. Plus there's only so many what's in the bags you can do in the year, and so far I've done 2. 3 might be a little bit of overkill. I just want to state as well that my contract with Sub 70, although it's a paid partnership, I'm a brand ambassador. I'm literally only contracted to wear the clothing and the hat. Whoops. I'm not actually contracted to play any golf clubs. Richard's given me the option. If I want to use Sub 70 clubs, brilliant. But if I don't, then that's not an issue. Different hat. So I'm just going to address a question or an inquiry that I get quite often, and that is, why did I originally stop playing my Sub 70 irons? The reason I stopped using my Tommy Armour irons originally was because the spin numbers were slightly too low. So what I was finding when I hit it into the rough, and unfortunately that happens far too often these days, I was getting flyers. And what I mean by a flyer is when you get a little bit of moisture on the ball, or you get a little bit of grass between the club face and the ball, it just reduces the spin numbers. And I was taking these spin numbers down too low, which would then mean that my spin numbers would be reduced dramatically, and I would lose like 500 to 600 revs per club. The ball would go sort of 10 to 15 yards further with each club. What I then was doing is, because I was worried every time I went in the rough of getting a flyer, I would then hit less club, and if I didn't get that flyer as expected, I'd come up 10 to 15 yards short, and I would just completely lose all accuracy with my irons and distance control. I was also hitting quite a low ball flight, so I was thinking that the shafts I had in them might be a little bit stiff for me, and I might need something that's going to give me a slightly more lift, slightly more elevation, whether that would be the clubs or the shafts, but I wasn't completely happy. So I said to Nick, whatever you think, I'll go with. I told him my concerns, the fact that I didn't like my previous irons, mainly because of the jumpers, the flyers at the wet rough. We got the numbers from those clubs. I hit them with the exact same shaft and spec that I had, and he could see that my numbers did give me slightly less spin than what I would actually require. The Sub 70 clubs with the graphite shaft and the combination he put together, I was gaining sort of 7 to 10 yards per club. My spin had gone up as well, so the flight was higher, which is what I wanted. And I liked the dispersion. I wasn't hitting them all over the place. Years ago with graphite, with having flex and torque, you could lose accuracy over a steel shaft. So Nick made the clubs up for me, and they turned up about 10 days ago. Just bear in mind, I've filmed 2 or 3 vlogs already, so I've only received the clubs recently, and it will be 2 to 3 more vlogs time before you actually start to see them appear in videos. As I have had a few people who follow me on socials comment, have I got rid of the clubs already? No, they just not appeared in the videos yet, which will please Richard and Nick at Sub 70. At this time, I just want to thank Richard and Sub 70 for the continued support. Without their support, a channel like this would not be able to exist. So please go and check out their website, go and have a look at their clubs. And if you're looking for a new set of clubs, then I really think you should consider a set of Sub 70. I'm so sorry it's come to this. We've had some great times together. You've sort of never let me down. You've always been there with me through all my greatest achievements, my ups, my downs, my highs, my lows. Thank you for everything you've done for me. I will never forget you.